Hello, and welcome to another edition of Journey to Stewardship, where we learn to be good stewards of what God has entrusted to us. I'm your host, the Reverend Doctor, and I got an answer to a question that's probably been on your mind, and you have been wondering how and why, and we're trying to come to some answer or some conclusion. Well, I got a possible answer for you tonight. I got a possible answer. Haggai, chapter 1, starting at verse 4. Let's start at verse 2. Haggai, that's Haggai, Haggai, chapter 1. Let's start at verse 2. And I want you to listen, because this may be the answer that you're looking for. This is what the Lord Almighty says. These people say the time has not yet come to rebuild the Lord's house. Then the word of the Lord came through the prophet Haggai. Is it a time for you yourselves to be living in your paneled houses while this house remains a ruin? Now this is what the Lord Almighty says. Give careful thought to your ways. You have planted much, but harvested little. You eat, but never have enough. You drink, but never have your fill. You put on clothes, but are not warm. You earn wages, only to put them in a purse with holes in it. This is what the Lord Almighty says. Give careful thought to your ways. Go up into the mountains and bring down timber and build my house, so that I may take pleasure in it and be honored, says the Lord. You expected much, but see, it turned out to be little. What you brought home, I blew away. Why? Declared the Lord Almighty. Because of my house, which remains a ruin, while each of you is busy with your own house. Therefore, because of you, the heavens have withheld their dew and the earth its crops. I call for a drought on the fields and the mountains, on the grain, the new wine, the olive oil, and everything else the ground produces, on people and livestock, and on all the labor of your hands. The people had come back from captivity, but they built their home, but they neglected God's house. So God sent word to Haggai to tell them, y'all need to work on my house. You need to build the church. You need to build the church up. You build a sanctuary, God's house. So how do we be good stewards? We spend our time, our effort, and what God has entrusted to us, everything to rebuild or to build up God's sanctuary. Your time, your talent, and your money. But now he said, here's what God said to them. He said, okay, let's go back and see what God said to them. Said, you planted a lot, but you didn't harvest nothing. You planted the whole field out there, and look what it brought you. Nothing. You eat, but you never have enough. You drink, but you're never full. And you make wages, you make money, but it always seems like you broke. Seems like money just run through your hands. And God said, now you go up, he gave it up. You go up in the mountains and get timber and come down and build my house. It's because look what happened. You expect a lot, but it turned out to be a little. You planted a lot, it turned out to be a little. And what you brought home, God said, I blew that away. So let's put it in perspective. You plant, say, 5 rows of corn. You expecting 5 rows of corn. But you only get 1 row. And then when you bring that home, God blew on it. Blew it away. So now you end up with, I don't know, a half a row of corn. And then you go sell the corn to make money. But then your money just runs through your hands. God touching all of that. So your answer may be, somebody out there that I'm talking to, your answer may be that you're not doing what God expects you to do. You say, well, you know, if I give money to the church, the preacher gonna drive nice cars and live in a fancy house and all of that. You know, hey, whatever excuse you want to come up with, think about your life. Think about it. The money you make runs through your hands. You always have more month than money. Your talent going to waste. Your time going to waste. So the answer is to why things are happening to you is because you have neglected God. Same thing happened here. They neglected God. And God sent word by the prophet Haggai to say, you live in your paneled house and my house is in ruin, you will not prosper. He says, I will withhold, the heavens will withhold the dew and your ground won't produce. And he said that the drought on the labor of your hand. So you working and ain't getting nothing. It's because you're neglecting God or you're not good stewards. So that may be your answer. Maybe it's you. Maybe it's you. You're not doing what God expects you to do. The same thing with the children, with the people that came back from captivity. They were more interested in building their big homes and forgot about the church. They neglected God. And so God caused a drought on their hands and you know, on their crops and they let them know that you make money, but it's going through your hands like you got a hole in your pocket. And I know some of us got the stimulus check gone, and you want to know where it went. Did you pay any tithes off of that? Did you think about God at any time? If not, then you ought to know where it's going. I just answered your question. Why is my life like it is? Why am I feeling? I just answered your question. I just answered your question. Through the prophet Haggai, that God told them, because of this, look at your life. Just sit back and look at your life. And when he said look at your life, he seen what was happening. He said, now look, you plant a lot, but you don't get nothing. You eat, but you ain't never have enough. You're always hungry. So you drink, but you don't get your fill. You put on clothes, but you ain't never warm. No matter how many clothes you put on, you're still not warm. And you tell them that you're on wages, only to put it in a purse with holes in it. Money running through your hand. So I probably answered your question. So I got another scripture tonight, Nehemiah chapter 10. Nehemiah Nehemiah chapter 10, verse 39. The people of Israel, including the Levites, are to bring their contributions of grain, new wine, and olive oil to the storerooms where the articles of the sanctuary and for the ministering priests, the gatekeepers, and the musicians are also kept. We will not neglect the house of God. So he's telling the people to bring their tithes or bring their offerings to the Levites. The Levites were the priests. They weren't on any land. Their job was to control, was to take care of the temple. They didn't work. So they had to bring meat to the temple so the Levites could eat. And God said he would bless them. Same thing in Malachi. That said, will a man rob God? So wherein have you robbed thee? In tithes and offerings. You are cursed with the curse. Bring your tithes into the storehouse so there'll be meat in mine house. And he said, improve me now herewith. If I will not open you the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing, you have room enough to receive it. And I will rebuke the devourer. So, being good stewards, God will protect us. Without being good stewards, you see what God will do. What he did. So I may have answered your question. Okay, the next one is Exodus 22, verse 29. Exodus chapter 22, verse 29. Do not hold back offerings from your granaries or your vats. Don't be holding back offerings from the church. You see what happens. Holding back offering, not being good stewards of what God has entrusted to you. And then the last scripture tonight is Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy chapter 12, verse 19. Be careful not to neglect the Levites as long as you live in your land. The Levites were the preachers or the ministers, or they kept the temple. They were appointed by God. The Levites. And he was telling the people to don't neglect the Levites. Don't neglect the ministers. So that, and you said, you know, and I'll tell you this, if you keep meat in God's house, he'll keep meat in your house. That's a fact. Now, whether you want to believe it or not, it's almost irrelevant. But you see what I may have answered your question. Why? And the question burning in the back of your head is, why can I seem to prosper? Why can I not feel comfortable? Why do I feel that I have to rob Peter to pay Paul? And why do I feel that I never have enough? Not that I want more, it's just that I never have enough. It's that I eat, but I got all this food, but I'm not, you know, I'm always hungry. So I drink, but I never get my fill. And I put on clothes and I'm always cold. I may have answered your question. I just might have answered your question. Read Haggai. And he'll tell you what God said. He had them to look at their lives. He said, this is what happened. You go out and you plant, you plant, you sow, but you don't get nothing. And you want to know, well, what happened? I watered it, I do what happened? You sit down to eat and you're always hungry. You sit down and you drink, but you never get your fill, you still thirsty. And then you earn wages and it seems like there's just a hole in your pocket. And you want to know why. It's because you expect a lot, but you get a little. And God said, and that little bit you brought home, I blew on that. You thought I blew on that. So if we want to be good stewards of what God has entrusted to us, we need to make sure that we do not neglect God's house. And you say, well, it's just, they're just people down there taking your money and all of that. Whatever excuse you want to use, that's what they were doing. They were living in their homes, taking care of their houses, but they left the church in ruin. Which means that they were not bringing any meat to the church so that the Levites could eat. Because God appointed the Levites to the temple. They couldn't own no land. They couldn't work. They had to take care of the temple. So God said to the people, bring your tithes to the storehouse, so there could be meat in my house for the Levites to eat. And I can tell you this, if you put meat in God's house, he'll make sure there's meat in your house. He'll make sure you have enough. He'll make sure that what you plant, that you will harvest a lot. He will make sure that you will eat and will be full. He'll make sure that you will drink and get your fill. He will make sure that when you put clothes on, you'll be warm. He will make sure of that. And he will protect the money. He will protect the money. But he says in Malachi that he will protect the money. He will protect it from the devourer. And we all know what the devourer is. We've tried to, save some money for something. And when we save the money, now, something happens. Flat tire, the pump went out or something, and you had to take that money. That's the devourer that nibbles at it. You don't take it all at one time. He just nibbles at it. And God said he'll protect it from the devourer. And he will make sure that your vine don't cast the fruit before it's time. And make sure that your vine in the field will produce when you need it. So tonight, we're going to be good stewards. If we're going to start tonight being good stewards, we're going to stop neglecting God's house. We're going to be good stewards. We're going to stop neglecting God's house. You say, well, the pandemic and I ain't got no job and you got talent. You got time. Like you say, you ain't got no job, so you got time to spread his message. You got time. You got a talent. Put it to use in God's house. Build up God's house. Because if you don't, you see what happened. He said that you will earn wages, but you will put it in a purse with a hole in it. And all of us have done that. Say, wow, where did the money go? It's because you neglected God's house. Take your money, pay tithes to the church. Look, you ain't got to pay it to my church. Find some church. You pass 10 of them on the way to the grocery store. Find a church. You know somebody that go to church. Give them some money to go put in church. You may not be able to give the full 10%, but you got to give something willingly. Put some meat in God's house. Be a good steward and put some meat in God's house. Put some meat in God's house. So be careful about our ways. Be careful. And that we do not neglect God's house or God's servants. Be careful of your way. He said that hold on, let me find it. Be careful. Do you know that being a good steward is trusting God? Believing what he says. Trust God. Trust him. Trust him. Trust him. Trust him. Devil messing with me tonight. I can't seem to get where I need to be, but I'm here. Give careful thought to your ways. Give careful thought to your ways. Think about what you're doing. Are you being a good steward? Look at your life. If that burning question in the back of your head is that why does it seem like I'm never going to get ahead? Why? I work, I bring money home, and I'm still lacking. It's because one thing you're not doing is you're not being a good steward. So starting today, we're going to be good stewards. We're going to turn that around. We're going to have God touch everything we do. So let's not neglect God's house anymore. Use your time, your talent, your monies to build up God's house. And be careful. Give careful thought to your financial practices. What are you doing? Are you neglecting God's house? Are you neglecting God's servants? That's a question you have to answer. Well, the clock on the wall says I got to go. I want to thank you for tuning in to Journey to Stewardship. And I'm your host, the Reverend Doctor. And I always sign off by saying, well done, thy good and faithful servant.